Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah,
Good afternoon,
come. Take your seat
Thank you, sir.
and tell us about yourself.
So my name is Amitesh Rathi. I belong to Bhopal. I did my schooling from DPS Bhopal. Later, I went to do my graduation in chemical engineering at IIT Delhi. After which, I worked for around 1.5 years at a fintech consulting firm. Post which, I've been preparing for the civil services examination.
Okay, this is a which attempt?
So this is my third attempt.
Third attempt and first interview.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So what, Amitesh, what brought you, or what made you start, quit your job and in a fintech company and move into or try for the civil services?
Ma'am, I believe it was during my early days. My mother's a professor at a government college. She has had interactions with bureaucrats and she has great respect for them. I believe my initial inspiration came from her. Later on, when I got to know about some of the works that were done by bureaucrats, especially in the city of Bhopal, I got really influenced by them and I really got inspired by them. However, like when I joined college, I saw the opportunity of joining a fintech consulting firm, which I thought would be good for me at that point of time. However, later, I realized that the job was keeping me away from the connect of the masses, and it was limiting me to a few problems of the elites, or to say a few selected people. And then to connect to the problems of the masses, I chose the path of the civil services examination.
But suppose, nowadays technology is everything. And if all the young students, bright minds, move out of technical subjects, innovation is, India needs innovators. And to kickstart the economy, the startup ecosystem, everything, we require innovators. Why did you not think of going into that direction? I would just like to ask you for that. I mean, or do you think it's for someone else to do?
Ma'am, I did my fair share of innovation. I believe via research internship that I took up at the University of Manchester. I also did certain projects at my college. But doing them, I realized that my core interests lied towards the civil services more, which is why I chose this path. Ma'am, even other than that, I believe that a lot of young technologists, or to say young people, are working in this field and doing great strides. As we can see that India has the third largest number of startups in the whole world, and has a very healthy startup ecosystem which continues to evolve technology throughout.
You had gone to France also. Under what program? Foreign exchange program. Yes. From IIT.
Yes, ma'am.
So you've seen the kind of ecosystem that they have for innovation and for research. Don't you think there could have been some more, opportunities that you could have looked at with France, in France? Or it didn't inspire you because, they have these what they call incubation centers, and they have a lot of, India is also getting it, but their ecosystem is very, research and innovation, they give a lot of priority to that. I think that kind of priority, it's not there to that extent in India, is it?
Ma'am, there is a certain focus towards research and technology development in France. Ma'am, but I also believe that India, given that it is a huge country, currently the largest in terms of population, also has certain socio-economic challenges on its front. We currently only spend around 0.7% of our GDP towards research and development. However, ma'am, even at my college, I witnessed that a lot of startups were being incubated at the Student Incubation Center and were being cherished or so to say, being developed with the help of the government machinery and the IIT machinery itself. To quote one example, ma'am, one of the startups that I worked with at our college, Chakra Innovation, currently has developed a device for taking out the soot or the carbon emissions which come out of the diesel engine and they use this emissions or carbon to create ink, which can be used for printing and other purposes. Ma'am, I believe that India, although with certain lag, is coming up to terms with, or is it coming at place with other developed nations such as France?
Good. And what about ease of doing business in India? What do you think about that?
Ma'am, I'm unable to recall the exact ease of doing business ranking because it was, yeah. Yeah, ma'am, India had a certain, had a lot of improvement over the past ease of doing business ranking before it got discontinued. Yes, ma'am. But I think it offers a very friendly environment for businesses to continue their, to continue and grow. With policy interventions such as GST and ECGLS.
And especially for foreign companies to come in, it's not that difficult?
Ma'am, I believe with the liberalized FDI norms, with there being single window portals, I'm unable to recall the name of the portal at the moment, but certain provisions have been relaxed to make foreign companies such as such foreign companies and easier into their businesses in India.
In India, but it's the bigger ones can come in. There's not such a problem. It's not a problem for the bigger ones, but the smaller ones. They do find certain legal, labor, land loopholes or impediments. So if you were supposing posted somewhere, in the government department where policy on this was to be decided, what do you think you would suggest as the best way of going forward? And what time frame would you give? You just think about it for a moment and tell us.
Ma'am, I believe the first step would involve around actually understanding where the problems lie. Whether it is in terms of the labor laws that such companies are facing such problems, or in terms of environmental clearances. And then, ma'am, even though certain restrictions can be eased, but ma'am, I believe it's also important for us to preserve labor rights and environmental protection, given that we are moving towards a more sustainable development model. Such restrictions need to be ensured. Ma'am, after this step, I believe with the consultation of relevant stakeholders, with the consultation of industry leaders via FICCI or representatives of such foreign companies, I believe I would take the relevant steps in order to plug these loopholes.
You couldn't suggest any specific methodology? Any specific ideas you had that could merely make it very easier?
Ma'am, from my very...
You mentioned single window clearance, but is that happening? I don't think it's happening to the extent it should be, because behind that single window there are 10 windows. So it's one person, but he has to go to 10 people still. So, yeah, tell me, please continue.
Ma'am, from my very limited understanding of how the clearances work, ma'am, I believe government with certain incentives, just like the PLI scheme, just like liberalized FDI norms, there could be some incentives for smaller foreign players to enable them to set up more factories. Ma'am, for example, chemical industry in India currently has the problem of scales of masses. I mean, there are a lot of industries which are dispersed, and which is why the chemical industry of India continues to lag behind that of the US or that of Germany. Ma'am, I believe incentivizing such steps which ensure that there are bigger industries being set up, even though by the smaller companies, are incentivized.
Okay, last question. Sustainable development you mentioned. The chemical industry, does it fit in with sustainable development and environment friendly sort of matters, issues?
Ma'am, initially there were certain challenges with respect to the chemical industry. We see that there were a lot of remnants of the chemical industries being disposed of into rivers such as Yamuna. Even we see the pollution levels of Yamuna at an all-time high, at a very high level. Ma'am, but gradually the chemical industry itself has been transforming to a more sustainable model. Even the petroleum refineries industry, the coal plants, they've been utilizing the fly ash in different terms.
Recycling.
Recycling the fly ash in terms of bricks, in terms of in cement manufacturing.
Do you think we need to learn best practices from other countries, or we should develop our own?
Ma'am, learning best practices from other countries, I believe, is the way going forward, because not only do we learn from them, but we get an added time advantage, because they have developed this over time, and learning from their faults or learning from their mistakes, I believe would move India forward into the future.
Thank you. Good.
Amitesh, you worked as a consultant in a film mechanics. So what was your job role there?
Sir, my job role was to consult banks and help them develop enterprise solutions for their treasury banking operations. So we consulted many banks who were setting up their offices or were looking to change their softwares from existing legacy systems into newer versions.
So can you be more specific on the newer versions of banking system management?
Yes, sir. So a lot of the existing banks used to rely upon handwritten calculation of risks or manual. Even in cases of Excel, they used to maintain Excel documents of their existing bond holdings, or say, for example, existing positions in the interbank markets. They used to do that. They used to calculate the risk very manually. So we automized all of these processes and inculcated advanced risk management practices with the help of AI and machine learning.
So you mean to say that your software calculates a risk in a much better way compared to the manual calculations?
Sir, while the calculation might be the same to some extent, but there are some things which a human over time might make mistakes in. But sir, software over time maintains its efficiency. Certain laborious tasks can be made better with the help of usage of softwares. Further, we can do more iterations with the help of such AI and ML techniques.
Okay. So how do the technology adoption in Indian financial markets working?
Sir, I would like to quote the recent example of UPI enabling transactions to Singapore, wherein users from India can directly remit money to Singaporean bank accounts. So with this example in mind, I believe technology is playing great strides, not only in the fintech sector, but it is also revolutionizing the banking industry. We see proliferation of many neobanks or digital banks, so to say, who operate via just via apps. Sir, Equitas Small Saving Banks is one example that comes to my mind, which has primarily focused its deposits via the digital mechanism. Sir, similarly, many of these banks are using advanced techniques such as, artificial intelligence and machine learning to calculate the probability of better risk management of NPAs and loan default accounts. Sir, yeah, these are the...
So do you see it impacting the informal economy of India?
Yes, sir. Informal economy of India, which continues to be beyond the reach of the government, beyond, I believe, the formal setup of the government, is also being transferred to digital payment methods. So today when we go to a grocery shop, we often see that even for smaller payments such as 10 and 20 rupees, we see people using UPI or other apps such as Paytm, PhonePe, etc. So these would bring them to the forefront, would enable the government to collect more data about their well-being, would enable them to formulate better policies, and help them grow into better positions.
Okay. So since you're talking about working out on the risk management, so can you name some important risks that Indian banking system see?
Sir, I believe the first would be the risk which comes from defaults of loans. Sir, corporate loans, even though NPAs have come down to a very low level among the past 7 years, but they continue to be still higher. This is the first risk. Sir, second risk would be from transactions using the forex amounts. Sir, here currency fluctuation risks continue to be a certain amount of challenge to these banks. So third, I believe would be more pertinent to the retail investors, but risks from frauds that we often see in the news, that certain people were defrauded of their life savings because of certain links being sent to them. Cyber crimes, I believe, would be the three important risks to these.
So you have been from IIT and you have been worked in the exchange program as well, foreign exchange. So how do you see the standard of IITs compared to the global universities?
Sir, I'd like to compare the two. So first of all, I saw that the fees of IITs is fairly less compared to institutions abroad. Particularly the institution I went to, their fees was comparatively very higher compared to that of IIT. Second, sir, the amount of interaction that students had with their professors in IITs is comparatively higher. Professors are involved in day-to-day activities, even in hostels, professors visit. There is regular informal interaction as well, which I did not so much observe in Lyon. Third point I believe would come in terms of diversity. Sir, IITs still continue to be less diverse in terms of the international be it teachers or be it students. Sir, INSA Lyon, the institute I went to for the exchange semester, roughly had 30% of their students who were international. I believe the number in IIT Delhi is lesser than 1%. So these are the major differences.
So do you feel that there should be more flexibility in the curriculum, more freedom or autonomy to be given to the professors, like the way it's happening in the top universities around?
Sir, definitely that more flexibility is required, given how quickly everything is changing, how fast the global economy or the global industry is moving. Flexibility in terms of the powers given to the professors would not only enable them to make the course curriculum more relevant for the students, but would also ensure that there are more people who are working in that particular industry. I believe flexibility with certain restrictions, so that a minimum standard of things, that a minimum basics are covered, sir, should be the way forward.
So you're from chemical engineering, right?
Yes, sir.
So any most notable innovation in the field of chemistry in the last 2 years, couple of years?
Sir, I believe it was the Nobel Prize of Chemistry, which was given last year or last to last year. But there was it was given for the discovery of organometallic catalysts. Sir, this discovery would drastically reduce the costs of catalysts, which are used in every chemical reaction. It would make a lot of chemicals that are produced via this process cheaper, and would also ensure that these are available to a lot of users.
Okay. So what is this phrase click chemistry is about?
Sorry, sir.
Click chemistry.
Sir, I'm not.
Okay. So how did anthropology as a discipline help you to understand Bhopal?
Sir, the three, I believe the functional features of anthropology is the first of the basic features of anthropology is accepting other traditions and accepting other cultures, and not only treating them equal to yours, but also giving them the respect that they deserve. Second would be the holistic nature of anthropology. So these two principles would help me understand the varied culture that exists in a city like Bhopal. So to say, there is no uniform Bhopali culture. There are parts of the city which exist in the form of old city and the new city. Sir, anthropology not only helped me understand how these two were different, but also helped me appreciate the beauty of both these sides. Sir, say for example, in the old city, we see traditional art such as Zardari art, of which Bhopali Batua is a famous example. And at the same time, it also helped me appreciate the developments which have been made in the new city. Sir, the new city of Bhopal is very green. It has been made with a very sustainable mindset with a very sustainable mindset, and we see green spaces all across the new city of Bhopal. And these differences, while I observed them, I observed their consequences and in all of their terms, essentially.
Okay. Sir, over to you, sir.
Amitesh, your father is regional marketing head of what?
Sir, he's currently retired, but he was the regional marketing head of a chemical lubricant manufacturing firm.
Government company? Was it a government company?
No, ma'am. It was a private.
Public sector, no?
Ma'am, I believe the public sector says for my mother.
Okay.
Ma'am, she is a professor at a government college.
Teaching what?
Ma'am, she teaches economics.
Economics?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so since you passed out of school, tell me two major structural changes in the ecosystem of this country. Structural means caused by the government, which have influenced your life also in some way.
So may I take a moment?
Yes, why not?
So the first would be the implementation of GST. Sir, even while going to buy or eat at restaurants, we would see a multitude of taxes at that time. With the implementation of GST, those taxes have not only been simplified, but they have also been reduced to a very less amount. So the second would be it's the step of specifically the municipal corporations, I believe, but a shift towards increased focus on cleanliness with the launch of
Economic changes.
economic.
Changes in the economic ecosystem.
Sir, I'm unable to think of the second economic change.
How does Amitesh make his payments?
Sir, I use sometimes I use cash, and most of the times I prefer digital payments.
That change has happened?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. From the point of view of a roadside, say, juice vendor, how this digital payment has influenced his life?
So first of all, it has enabled them to do transactions which would not happen in cases of change not being available with that person. Second would be tallying those records. Given how easily you can calculate your balance sheet, the money that is coming in and that is going out with the help of these digital payment mechanisms, it has enabled them, I believe, to easily maintain their books.
Do they maintain books? Does a juice wala maintain a book? Very granted, yes.
Sir, not to say book in very accounting terms.
Yeah, okay, next. What else?
So these are the two things I can think of.
Okay, when he goes to buy sugar cane for his juice, how does he go and make the payment?
Sir, as far as I am aware, I believe it would be through cash.
No. He simply takes his mobile cash if he has, but he doesn't have cash. He just goes and pays to that vendor. Again. Then he doesn't have to keep watching that somebody stole money from that cash box. That whole headache has changed. You've seen they put some device there.
Yes, sir.
What does it do?
Sir, it announces every time they receive a payment. So, yes, sir. Sir, it enables them to easily verify if a payment has been made or not.
So that has become the cash assistant. Okay. And two changes in the social system which have happened.
Sir, may I take a moment?
Yes, yes.
Sir, I'm unable to think of any.
Come on, yeah. So many things have happened. In your IIT, the number of seats have changed over the years.
Yes, sir.
Why?
Sir, I believe it was for the reservation, 10% reservation given to women, specifically in those colleges, for which.
Percent to women. In what? In which field was it given?
Sir, I believe it was in the STEM field.
STEM field, yes. Okay. What else? Something else also changed the seats?
Sir, EWS reservation was given to.
And what else? Triple talaq?
Yes, sir. So more positive reforms towards women equality have been.
And decriminalization of?
LGBTQ, the decriminalization of such people. Article 377, if I remember correctly.
Okay. So you can see the changes which have happened. And in our time, it would have taken a generation just to think of it. And for you, it's happened right in front of your eyes, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, anyway. One state is talking of starting urban employment guarantee scheme. So now my objection is that the fellow leaves his village. He doesn't want to live in his village. He wants to work in the city, right? But he has work back in the village, or at least he should think of finding a work in the village. If you start incentivizing urban employment guarantee, through guarantee, then everybody will leave the village and come to the city. So do you think it's a prudent thing to do? As a policy maker, would you advise your Chief Minister to do so?
Sir, these employment guarantee schemes, by their design, do not incentivize or do not give a very satisfactory level of income to the people. Sir, these are only in the form of social security nets, which help people who fall, who in the temporary or emergency situations, sir, such as the COVID-19 pandemic. We saw a lot of migration back to these villages, in which the relevance of Manrega got very important. I believe the scheme allocation rose to an all-time high. If I remember correctly, I believe it was around 2.3 lakh crore rupees. Sir, similarly, to prevent reverse migration like this, urban employment guarantee schemes would ensure that whenever such an emergency situation happens, such reverse migration not happens. Sir,
no, it's not being introduced for any emergency situation. As a policy, state is saying we'll give an urban employment guarantee scheme. Then let everybody leave the village, come and start staying in the city, and there is guarantee I'll get a job there. So that's the end of the city, I think.
Sir, while there might be incentives for them to leave the village, I believe a similar schemes in the form of Manrega already exists in villages. Because the cost of living in cities is higher compared to that of the rural village, plus they leave their social and cultural norms and bonds that exist in rural, they'd only migrate to urban centers when a requisite pay gap is ensured or pay rise is ensured to them. Sir, if such a pay gap is not given while implementing such an urban employment guarantee scheme, I believe it would not promote migration. It would only ensure that whoever...
Okay. Think about it. Anyway, tell me, you are a chemical engineer basically. So, there's a huge lot of plastic floating in the sea. You're aware? There's a huge, very big island of plastics.
Yes, sir. I believe it's called the Atlantic garbage sink. I'm not able to recall the exact name.
Yeah, garbage patch. Okay. So my question is very simple. You are given this assignment to, in 3 years, you destroy this patch or you remove this patch. So what would you do?
So first of all, it is a very humongous task to be achieved in 3 years' time.
So you are assuming that it is a difficult task already. Come on, yaar. At your age, you can't have ideas like that. Okay.
So the first step, I believe, would be stopping the disposal of plastic wastes, curbing or finding out where the major sources of such plastic waste is. First of all,
You have to remove that patch. That's it.
yes, sir. So first of all, would be cutting off the source of that patch so that the patch does not keep on growing. So the second step, I believe, would be usage of large ships with nets. Similar experimentation was done in my city of Bhopal in the Chota Talab. So there was a lot of plastic waste over there, and they used boats to physically filter out. I'm forgetting the name of the exact machine, but they used that boat to physically take out the plastic waste and dump it and utilize it. Sir, such boats on a larger scale, I believe, could be utilized. Sir, third would be usage of bioremediation techniques or other bacterias which would...
Okay. Think about it. Ma'am.
Thank you. So, Amitesh, do you know who is a Lokpal? Lokpal.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, Lokpal is the ombudsman in our term. Ma'am, he's responsible for checking the corruption which happens in the government on scale of above Group D employees, and even has possible powers to check for corruption at very high ministerial and...
So, all the bureaucrats and ministers comes into the domain of Lokpals?
Ma'am, as per my knowledge, I think they do.
Who is the Lokpal of India?
Ma'am, I'm unable
You don't
to.
know. And are the state level people, what are they known as?
I believe it is called Lokayukt.
Okay. And the word which you said earlier, Lokpal or ombudsman. So where from this term ombudsman?
As far as I can recall, it is a Swedish concept which has been adopted by India.
No, we have not adopted. When we started way back in 1960 to have this office of Lokpal. So that time it was Sweden which we want to make the model. So they are called as ombudsman. And what about Central Vigilance Commission?
Ma'am, it is also responsible for checking the corruption.
So are the two different or they are same? The Lokpal and this vigilance.
Ma'am, I believe in the terms of power, there are more powers given to Lokpal to investigate certain ministers, and I believe...
They can investigate. Can they prosecute also people if they are found guilty?
Ma'am, I'm unaware of the...
Okay. Do you know what is delegated legislation?
Yes, ma'am. Delegated legislation is a power given by the parliament or the legislature to the executive to formulate certain policies as the policies or rules as they deem fit over time. And I believe it is being given in the form of rules which are formed after a certain policy is introduced.
So can whenever they delegate these powers to make rules or regulations, can sometime they make the law also? Law-making power is vested in the parliament. So whenever, the executive can also make a proper law.
Yes, ma'am. They can make a proper law with the help of the ordinance giving powers that is given to...
So that's president's power.
Yes,
Uh, But when we say delegated legislation, we don't take that in that context.
Okay. Ma'am, I'm unaware if they can make laws based on the delegated legislation.
But as a person who is aspiring to be a civil servant, you should know. Okay, in fact, for example, you are selected. So which law do you feel will be more required in your day-to-day working? If you are posted somewhere, maybe a district magistrate.
Ma'am, I believe that the general, because as a district magistrate, there's equal responsibility of revenue collection and as that of implementation of different policies of the government.
So you mean to say land laws you should know? Yes. And land laws, I think, varies from state to state. If I say Uttar Pradesh, what is your cadre, by the way?
Ma'am, I've chosen my home state to be my first cadre, be my first preference, which is the MP.
UP is nowhere.
Ma'am, it's in the...
Oh, okay, maybe it is Madhya Pradesh. So do you know about the Madhya Pradesh land laws?
Ma'am, I'm currently not aware of them.
Okay. You know about the criminal law of the country? Yes, ma'am. What is the principle of liability?
Ma'am, from what I can recall, I believe the principle of liability denotes in case of any accidents or mishappening, the party which is responsible for the...
It's not always mishappening or accident. It can be purposely done crime.
Yes, ma'am. Would fall into the onus of whoever is the cause of such problems. Ma'am, to quote an example, principle of absolute liability is often invoked in cases of industrial disasters, which was recently seen.
Okay, you are going towards civil liability more. I'm asking about the criminal liability. If a crime is committed, what are the main elements of the commission of a crime?
Ma'am, I'm sorry, I'm unable to understand.
For example, a murder has happened somewhere, and it was due to some animosity or due to some type of... it's not an accident. So what are the two things which are involved? One is act of commission, and another is your intention. You want to do that. That's mens rea. So this is the principle of liability. Actus non facit reum nisi mensit rea. Not alone act, but there should be guilty intention also to be proved before you held a person guilty. So, I mean, as an officer, these are very basic things. And you have to study. Maybe later on. But for now, best of luck.
Okay. Have you voted?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you know what is the process of election? A date is announced and when the election takes place. You must have seen the polling booth also. Now suppose you become the DM of Bhopal. You are already working as DM Bhopal. And today the Election Commission announces that the parliamentary elections will take place. Voting will be on 30th. The counting will be 30th of March. And counting will be on, say, 2nd of April. So now you are the DM. It has come in the news. Okay, the election dates for Bhopal and other areas have been decided, has been announced. So now tell me what all you will be doing from today till the counting date. Just think about it.
Sir, as the election comes closer, there would be a lot of political rallies which would be happening. So these would happen according to the Model Code of Conduct, which is enforced by the Election Commission of India. And as the DM, I believe that the DM is one of the returning officers, if I'm recalling it correctly, for these elections. So my first responsibility would be ensuring that the Model Code of Conduct is being enforced upon. Sir, second would be taking into account any of the illegal activities that are being done by political party members, such as distribution of liquor or distribution of distribution of other material goods so as to persuade the voter to their stance. Sir, and I believe the third would be ensuring that while the voter lists are being made, there's proper updation, there are no inclusion and exclusion errors that happen in the case of voter lists. So these are the three functions I can think of.
Only three things you will do.
Sir, I believe there would be more things, but I'm unable to think of them right now.
Okay, fine. Just another question. The railways, the different services of railways have been amalgamated into the railway management service. Since you've given that SCRA exam, that's why I am asking. You've given SCRA exam, no?
Sir, I'm unable to hear.
Oh, acha. You didn't clear, that is fine. So now tell me, this policy and this year, people are being recruited through that exam, and next year onwards, they will have a separate exam for the railway management service. So how good or bad this idea is of amalgamation of all the services, and this year having it with the civil services exam, and from next year onwards, like in Indian Engineering Service, some separate exam.
Sir, I'm unable to recall the exact name of the commission, but it has, I believe it was the Vivek Debroy Commission which had recommended the amalgamation of all the railway services into one IRMS service. Sir, this is to reduce the inefficiencies which were being introduced on account of different set of services, and I believe it has been done to make changes given that railways is also modernizing, and there's need for more generalists, so to say, given that it is a managerial position. Sir, this comes in context of that. Further, sir, in the recent notification, the government has also withdrawn the separate exam of the IRMS, and for at least the 2023 cycle, the IRMS recruitment would happen through the CSE process.
Okay, fine, thank you. So your interview is over.